I'm going to introduce you to a guy that I've known since he became the administrator for Farm Service Agency. He come down and had a meeting, a couple months after you got appointed, and I didn't know him before then. And he gave his spiel to us, and we got to ask him a lot of questions, and I'm supposed to be reading from this, but I'm going to throw it away. I'll just tell you about the guy I know. He's a pretty good fella, and he's from the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation right up here, not too far to the northeast. He's a rancher. He come from a 4th generation cattle ranch. He's been in the business a long time. And when I heard he got appointed, I was like, we finally got somebody that might know something out there. So I went and listened to his presentation. At the end of it, he puts right up on the board his phone number and his email address. And he says, you ever have a problem, get a hold of me. And I was like, you poor naive sucker, you don't know me, but you're going to. Well, since then, I've contacted him a lot. We don't agree on everything, but I can tell you he tries. So I'm proud to introduce this guy. He's a friend, Zach Ducheneaux. He will listen to you. He's a good guy to have in DC.
Good morning, everybody. Eric, thank you very much. I think I should have you write my bio, because that's better than what they put about me on the website. Honored to be here. Glad to be here to visit with RCAF again, follow up on the conversation we had last year, and to share some of the good work that we've been able to do on your behalf. For those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet or talk with, I'm Zach Ducheneaux. I'm your FSA administrator. And I take that very seriously when I say that. There's a handful of producers I've talked to actually in the room on that phone number that Eric said I put on the wall. And I think that should be the example that we expect to hold our leadership, elected and appointed, to. And even those that are just dedicated lifelong public servants. Been here for 2.5 years now, and it's been some of the fastest time in my life, some of the best time in my life, some of the most challenging times in my life, because you get to see things from a much broader perspective. You know, the fires in Hawaii are at the very front of our minds right now. The flooding that we had in the Northeast. All of that stuff has an impact on the work of the Farm Service Agency and the work that we do. Our staff carry that work out in over 2,100 county offices across the country, managing 52 different programs at last count, and a significant loan portfolio. And they do it oftentimes at a wage that qualifies them for nutrition assistance. We all should be very concerned about that, because they're charged with holding up that safety net for you all. And if they're worried about being able to feed their own family, we're going to lose them to the private sector. And then you're going to have to pay for their services a hell of a lot more than we all collectively pay them right now. One of the conditions that I put on later in my term of giving out my phone number and email freely is just one ask of all of you. I can't get to every single county office, and I can't get to every one of the county offices that serve you, but when you go there, thank them on my behalf, because I believe in them, I believe in what they're doing, and I understand the importance, and we're going to continue to advocate for them in this administration so that we can treat them better and give them the same comfort that they're trying to give you as you go about your day-to-day operation on your ranch, farm, in your greenhouse, around your apiary, in your redfish ponds. The diversity of production that we support is really nothing short of tremendous. I want to talk a little bit about our perspective in this administration on what we do. And our job is to thoughtfully steward taxpayer resources that are afforded to us to where Congress says the need is. And I think we do a really good job of that. And we do it very efficiently. But we don't see that necessarily as spending or bureaucracy. We see that as an investment in all of you, in rural communities around the country, in urban communities more and more. And I want to talk a little bit about the nature of that investment and what it's meant to some producers that are probably in this room or members that aren't in this room in the last 3 years. One of the first engagements that I had as your administrator was a drought tour in North Dakota. Senator Hoeven invited us to come out and hear from our producers, and Secretary Vilsack said, every chance you get out there and listen to your producers. So we went up there and we listened to the livestock producers in the western and central part of the state faced with the life-changing decision to sell their production herd. Cattlemen know what that's about. It's not about that cow. It's about that cow's granddam and granddad's genetic decisions and the fencing and management decisions you've made on your land. So when you sell that cow out of production, that's a whole different thing than selling a tractor because you didn't need it. We heard from those producers because of the widespread nature of this climate change related disaster. We need some assistance. We can't get the feed where we would normally get it, or we wouldn't even be bothering you. So we got to work with Senator Hoeven's team because to us, ag is a bipartisan measure, and we should work together on it. And we looked at our Emergency Assistance for Farm-Raised Fish, Livestock, and Honeybees program. We call it ELAP. And we found that we had the flexibility offered to us to provide some freight assistance for producers who had above normal distance on the feed that they were hauling. And we rolled that program out and helped keep some cattle herds together. True to our assertion that we're going to listen to our stakeholders and take your feedback seriously, some of those old boys over in Wyoming had a sharper pencil than us. And they said, hey, it makes more sense for me to haul my cattle to where the feed's at. So instead of digging in our heels and saying, no, by God, this is the way it's going to be, we went right back to work and we changed it. Within a couple months' time, we made a change in that program to accommodate that. And now fast forward to the winter of 22-23, you know, folks on the Rosebud Reservation over there east of Eric's outfit, down in north central Nebraska, over into Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, and winters like they'd never heard before. Producers sharing the stories with me of snowdrifts 8-10 feet tall that they're bringing their stock home to calve or lamb on snow. And their feed is inaccessible. A lot of this is happening after a couple years of drought. So our team at the FSA is now starting to take up this notion and say, hey, have we really found the extent of our authority? Is there something we can do to help these producers get through this, get to next year? Because all of us in the livestock industry know that next year is going to be better. That's going to be the year we get right. So they went to work, conferred with the state departments of agriculture, and found a way that we can actually help, because of the extended nature and the intense nature of these disasters, help producers who have a abnormally high cost of buying feed as well. Because we all know what happened to the forage market in the last couple of years in light of the drought in this territory. It damn near doubled. And if we can just help those producers get to that next year, maybe they can get their feet back under them and get things right. That's a safety net. It's not something to be relied on every year. None of you want that. But if there's something that we can do to help you and it's within our power, it should be a crime not to. And that's the approach that we're taking in this administration when it comes to producer feedback. But let's go back to that guy in North Dakota who was able to make a plan to keep his cattle herd together. And think about him being able to reap the benefits of the moisture that most of North Dakota had last year and have a calf crop this spring and have a $1,800 feeder calf standing in his pasture right now. And it might have cost us a few $1,000s to get him a whole herd of them. To me, that's a pretty damn good investment. As a taxpayer, I think that is a valuable investment because it's going to keep a lot of those rural economies going. It's going to keep that rural store open. It's going to allow that producer to do what all of you are trying to do. Leave a legacy, leave something behind for the next generation. So that small investment in those producers is going to reap benefits for the country as a whole for years to come. I got a note on my phone because I wanted to make sure that I got the numbers right, because we did some economic analysis on that. And what we found is that, that's my tractor drawing. That year, we put about $1.3 billion into the livestock industry all across the country. We supported 90,000 jobs with that $1.3 billion investment. There was a $3.8 billion household income realized because of that $1.3 billion investment. A $5.9 billion increase in gross domestic product, and helped stimulate $15.3 billion in sales. Where else can you get a 10-to-1 return on an investment of $1? I'll tell you where, right here in the cattle industry, if we get the money in there and we help keep these herds together. And that's at last year's prices. We're going to blow the chart off, blow the top off the chart this year. So that investment, there's other places that we invest. A lot of the producers in the eastern part of this state had that derecho blow through and knock over a lot of their on-farm storage facilities. And they don't have a way to replace it. That puts them victim to the market. Kind of puts them in the shape that we're all in the livestock industry. You got to take whatever the spot market provides if you don't have a place or a way to store it. So as we think about building out more rungs, if you are more a net for the commodity farmers, we need to think about bringing parity so that livestock producers have the same opportunity. Eric's got a lot of good ideas. He should get in front of a microphone more often. And I've been trying to tell him, get on that county committee, get on that state committee. We need voices like that. He suggested back there, my calving barn's no different than a grain bin. Why can't I get the same type of financing for it? So I told him, I'll go back and see what we can do. That makes good sense. I want to talk about our loan programs a little bit because that's the part that's really near and dear to me. As some of you know, I'm a child of the farm financial crisis of the 80s, and I watched my dad's cows load on a truck in 1986 because the lenders quit lending in Indian country. Because of that, I'm very concerned about the way we do financing at the Farm Service Agency, and I think we should do more of it. And we should continue to highlight how effective it is the way we do it. We have the opportunity to be much more flexible and much more accommodating than many of our friends in the lending industry have the ability or the will to. And for every dollar that we loan out, it only costs the taxpayer $3. Every dollar that we loan out generates about $1.36 in local economies every year for a 3-cent investment. Our farm loan programs operate at a negative cost to the taxpayer. That means our farm loan programs pay for the cost of deploying that investment. We've got some ground to make up in how we effectively deliver that and how we do it in a timely manner, and our team is working around the clock to improve that. Because every time I talk to loan, someone says, it took me 3 months to get a damn loan. Yeah, it did. And that is a vestige of a different philosophical approach to lending than what we have. The idea was the private sector can do it better. Let's make everybody go to the private sector and get these loans. Fine if you have the means, but a lot of our folks don't have the means. Young and beginning producers really have only one real option right now. You can't go out and make a 9.5% real estate loan work, even with an $1,800 feeder calf, because what happens when you get to the lending industry, they want to constrict the terms so that they can turn the money over more times. We see it as a long-term investment opportunity. We want to get the money out there and have it circulate in that community and have you pay the agreed-upon return. So we're doing a lot of work with regard to farm loans. The first issue that Eric brought up to me at that meeting in Pine Ridge, or on Pine Ridge rather, was a provision in our loan programs, in our farm ownership loan programs, that kicks you out after 10 years. You can't come back and get another loan from the FSA after you've been in it for 10 years. And I said, Eric, that doesn't sound right. I think you're wrong. But I had to call him back and say, Eric, you were right, and we're going to take a look at this. We went to work building the justification for this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the philosophy that we've got. This is an investment, it's an opportunity, and it's part of a meaningful safety net. And the other philosophy steers folks towards commercial credit at any cost and talks about graduation from our credit to commercial credit. The way we've set it up, though, it functions more like expulsion. You can have our farm operating loan for 7 years, and then you're done, no matter what. You can access our real estate loan for 10 years, and then you're done, no matter what. That's not graduation. So what we're trying to do is, one, get rid of that so that we can have folks graduate on their terms and then become shoppers in the commercial credit industry instead of price takers, because cattlemen do enough price taking. But also change the nature of the way we deploy the capital and be more patient in the recapture. And if you've got a good idea to do something with the money that we've loaned you, pay the interest, take that principal and go out there and put that water tank in. Go put a down payment on that cabin barn. We're getting the investment and you're turning the dollar over in the rural community. To me, that's what it's really about. We've done a lot of work to improve and enhance our conservation programs. And I want to stress, all of our conservation programs are voluntary and incentive-based. We don't mandate anything. But we want to see that land in conservation, and we want to make sure that we've got cattlemen at the table when we have the discussion about working lands conservation. You'll see we've done a lot of emphasis on the Grassland CRP program. That's a program where you can take your grazing land, enroll it in a 10 to 15 year contract, just like our friends in the grain industry have a chance to do. But what you get when you do it is the opportunity to implement a grazing plan and access to an infrastructure fund to put the infrastructure on that land that you need to bring that grazing plan to bear. We rolled out 3 of these agreements with the tribes in South Dakota, and we're really looking forward to see some of that land, much of it for the first time ever, have conservation investment put into it. But again, voluntary and incentive-based programs. MPEP loans, MPEP grants, that's meat processing, meat and poultry processing, something EP. On the White Earth Reservation in north central Minnesota, there was a groundbreaking 2 days ago, or 2 weeks ago, for a brand new mom and pop size slaughter facility. They're gonna do muscle cuts, they're gonna do wild game, they're gonna do beef, whatever folks can bring to them. In Havre, Montana, because of that program, that investment, we converted a former Schwann's warehouse into a local meat processing facility for the Montana Cooperative of for a Montana Cooperative Association. That's just two of the examples of an investment in providing alternatives for producers. We don't need to capture a significant amount of this market share with this program to do this. We need to do like the gentleman back over there said. We need to get the producer and the consumer in a conversation with each other so that we're bridging that gap. And we're giving you another choice to go with at least part of your production. Hell, maybe it's just as simple as not having to drive 6 hours to get your own beef processed and put in your freezer. That's the notion that we have. We want to bring that investment to rural America so that we can continue to have these mom and pop businesses and continue to do this good work. I want to leave a little time for some questions and answers, and I want to thank you for having us out here. We will always come and visit with our friends in the cattle industry, and we hope you appreciate what we're doing. And remember to go out there and thank your local county office on my behalf. Thank you. I got as much time as you do for questions.
My name is Rick Vanderway, but just a clarification towards the beginning of your presentation. Maybe I heard it wrong. I thought you said for every dollar you loan out, it costs the taxpayer $3?
3 cents.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Thank you. Did I say dollars? Sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, 3 cents for every dollar that we loan.
Hello,
Yes, where you at? Willie,
Zach.
how you doing, buddy?
I would just like to thank you for what you're doing for all of us in Washington, D.C. I would just say, somebody off the Cheyenne Reservation and whatever, but just from me and everybody, thank you for what you're trying to do for us cattlemen in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. It's going to be one of the great honors and privileges that I ever have in my life. I'm glad to do it.
Andrea Hutchison from Oklahoma,
How are you, ma'am?
Independent Stock Growers. We've heard through the grapevine that we need to be careful of changed verbiage within some of the programs. Could you explain that?
You're hooked onto a different grapevine than me. I don't know what
Oh.
verbiage you're talking about.
I don't know.
Pardon me?
I don't know. I didn't know.
Nothing that I...
Like anything new that we need to be aware of that you're not supposed to be telling us? That's what,
I have a really nasty habit of telling everything I know to anybody that'll listen. So if there was something like that, you'd have heard it
we've
from
heard
me.
that there's been threats that you don't tell us.
Threats to...
Yeah, to the producer, that they need to read the fine print on any of the programs being offered.
Any people that are telling you that, give them my phone number, have them call me,
Okay,
and we'll have a
because
conversation.
that's a real problem that people they're talking about, the producers are.
Okay, good to hear, good to know. Sir, go ahead.
Eric Nelson from Iowa. I have two sons that use FSA lending for operating, and flexibility is lacking. The marketing opportunities don't always harmonize that it's the best decision marketing-wise to have their notes all cleaned up and paid for by the 31st of December. What can they do? What can any of us do to help bring about some needed changes for young folks? Because there are fewer and fewer small commercial banks. Lending regulations have made almost all commercial banks really large,
Yeah.
and they really frown on working with the startup young folks. So from where you're sitting, what can we do?
Where are you at again in Iowa?
In northwest Iowa, near Sioux City.
Okay. We have flexibility built into those programs. The challenge is that other philosophy that I've been talking to you about has institutionalized a notion of, hey, let's get this back. Folks can just grit their teeth and make it. Our approach is, if you got to work off the farm, you're distressed. We should service your loan different. So if your sons have the ability to come in and request a deferral, request a restructure, and our team will meet them where they're at and be as flexible as our statutes allow. There are some things that we're statutorily prohibited. We need to have a conversation with our friends on the Hill. Hopefully that can happen during this farm bill. But we'll be flexible, and if you get your sons' names to me, we'll make sure we reach out and do that. Because you're exactly right. We can't just keep our producers stuck in this commodity cycle where they are, because of an arbitrary day on a calendar, have to be a price taker.
One more, Zach.
You bet.
Gerald Schreiber, Eastern Colorado, Zach.
Hey, Darryl.
And I think what Andy was hinting at, your grassland permanent pasture,
Yep.
I think in our area it runs 18 to 22. I've avoided it because over the years I've used EQIP and NRCS, but it seems like they've become more intrusive in telling me how to manage. And at this point in my life, it's not that I know all the answers, but so the Grassland CRP program, a 10-year contract, you don't see it as giving up property rights and letting the government make more management decisions on our ranches. You don't read that verbiage in the contract?
That's not the way I mean, so we're not forcing you to do it, and we're paying you for the consideration, and we're giving you access to cost share money that you normally wouldn't have access to. In every transaction where money changes hands, there are conditions on it. If you and Brent make a deal right back there and money changes hands, there's going to be some things considered on each side. Producers are very free to not engage in Grassland CRP, but it's an opportunity for a real working lands conservation program. We expect you to go out there and graze that pasture, and we expect you to use the tools that we have to offer to improve the productivity, so that over that 10-year period of time, you've not only increased the value of your land, you've increased the productivity of your land, so that you got more of a legacy to leave behind. I don't see it as an intrusion at all. It's a voluntary incentive-based program. Why'd they turn yours off?
Testing. Okay.
You're there.
And on the heels of my question is regarding Grassland CRP. I know, my name is Shad Sullivan, Southeast Colorado and North Texas. 178 ranches in Southeast Colorado applied for the program, and 178 were accepted into the Grassland CRP. At the time, I did not participate in that because it seemed like on the back end of that, the rules were not closed. It was kind of an open-end rule system in place. I guess my question to you is, what is on the end of the contract, not in terms of rules, but in terms of what happens with the contract when it comes to fruition, 10, 15, whatever you choose down
It's a really
the road.
good question. It's a good question, and it's one everyone should ask. And the Grassland CRP program, as we're doing it now, is too new to have anybody have actually experienced this. But we can look to the regular CRP program and see that producers at the end of their contract can do whatever they want. There is no commitment to stay in any of these practices. The next day they can turn it over black and till it every other day if they want. So I think the end game is that we believe in what we're doing, and we think that you will find the benefit in it and maybe come to adopt some of these practices. But once you're out of the contract, you're out of the contract, just like any other contract. Good question, though. Brett?
Frank Andrus from California.
Good to see you, Frank.
we signed up for the 5-year conservation program. It was our 3rd year into it now, and I have nothing but compliments to the way the program is working in our area there. The personnel have been very cooperative and helpful, and the money is great too. So we appreciate the program.
Very good. Frank, what county are you in?
Tehama County.
We'll make sure. Yeah, sure.
Test?
Yep, you're on.
Yes, I bought some ground this year with the FSA's help with farm credit, and everything went real smooth. Nothing but good things to say about my dealings with the FSA as far as buying ground. That said, it is a farm bill year, and inputs are going up, and real estate's going up, and everything. What would you like to see out of the farm bill for maximum amounts for land or operating or cattle, or what's going through your head or your team's head on raising those possibly?
So the official answer is that this administration is in a responsive posture to Farm Bill initiatives from the Hill. We will provide meaningful, timeful technical assistance on the recommendations that the Hill says that they're considering. My answer is, I would like to have the same authority, the same loan limits as our guaranteed lenders, because many of our producers that we serve can't get into a guaranteed lender at a rate that is affordable for them. And our guiding statute says, if a producer can prove to the secretary in writing that they cannot secure credit elsewhere sufficient to meet their actual needs at reasonable rates and terms, we should serve them. And we can't do that with the limits that we've got meaningful enough in this market. So I'd like to see it be the same. Thank you for your, send me an email about your staff. I like to reach out to the good staff and pass that thanks that we get on. So if you got them out there, let me know. Brett,
Another, do we have time?
I've got until the airplane leaves.
Well, I guess my question is, how much interaction do you have with NRCS? Because I found out that we could get conservation money for putting in the windbreaks other than actual trees and stuff like that. So I decided to go ahead and sign up for it so I could do that. And in return, they give me a 10-page thing to fill out that wanted to know what I was planting, what I was haying, what I was using, what machinery I was using. Everything in the, you could imagine that we were supposed to fill out in this 10-page questionnaire before in order to get part of into this part of this program. It's like, no, I'm not, I didn't, and I don't know why we have to.
Very good. Again, voluntary incentive-based programs, but I would just ask you, ma'am, if I wanted to buy your car from you and I said, hey, I want to give you a check, you're probably going to want to know a little bit about me before you just give me your car and take my check. And that's the NRCS teams that I've worked with in the field in my previous role, they'll fill the damn thing out for you. You just got to sit there and visit with them. It's not a real burden on the producers, and it's a very valuable tool. I've seen a lot of producers keep livestock herds alive behind those windbreaks. So I'll. Yeah. What county are you in? Okay. Yep. But I do work close with the chief. We'll have a conversation.
Another one here.
All right, very good. Hi.
Hi, Barb Leininger from Southeast Colorado, very concerned about private property rights. Can you absolutely, without reservation, look everyone in this room in the eye and tell us that there is no connection between 30 by 30 and any of the conservation reserve programs?
Yeah, not all at one time because there's a lot of eyes. But there's a misunderstanding about what 30 by 30 is. that's pretty prevalent. And it's not taking your land and turning it wild. It's about giving you the tools you need to engage in conserving measures so that you can preserve the ability to produce into the future. It's not about taking it away and setting it aside. The Grassland CRP program, we expect you to use it. We hope to help you use it better. The CRP program writ large is about taking marginal land out of production, helps producers focus more of their energy and investment on the better farmland. So yeah, I'll if we've got time, everybody line up, they're on the way out, and I'll look you in the eye and say, yeah, it's voluntary, incentive-based conservation programs. All right. I want to thank you again. I really appreciate the time, appreciate the questions. My phone number and email can be on that screen if those guys can type it, but it's on our website now because I got tired of giving it out everywhere. Figured folks can just Google loudmouth FSA administrator and that information will pop up for you. But it's zach.ducheneaux@usda.gov. And my phone number is 202-941-4675. I get a lot of calls. Please leave a message with your information and I will get back to you. That's me. Thank you.